That sounds stupid. I don't even know why I came. She looked as if she wanted to get up and leave, but was too polite to walk out. Actually, Jenny, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. Let me ask you a question that will seem a bit off subject. How easily do you cry? Do tears come freely, or do you seldom cry? Jenny looked relieved. Well, let me think. I cried when each of our kids was born. Sort of happy tears, right? What about sad tears? Jenny searched a moment. One time, when Heather was 2, she had to be hospitalized. We found out she had spinal meningitis. I cried then. Who was with you? My husband, Nathan. When the doctor told us, he hit the wall. I mean, literally, hit the wall. He startled me. He is never like that. As soon as the doctor left, I ran into the ladies' room and cried. Quiet tears or loud tears? I asked. Jenny thought hard. Quiet. There were 2 ladies in there, and I didn't want them to hear me. In the days that followed, did you cry again? And if so, did anyone ever comfort you? Jenny practically shouted, Definitely not. I was mad after that. My mom came to the hospital, and as usual, it became all about her. She was wringing her hands and walking around saying, Not my baby, Heather, please don't let her die. She made a big scene, insisting on seeing Heather and then throwing a fit when they told her no. I had to take her down to the cafeteria for a timeout. Nathan and I actually gave her timeouts. Jenny laughed. Mom doesn't really know it, of course. How about your girls? They are still preschool age. What do you do when they cry? Oh, they're getting better about that. I tell them to go to their rooms and come out when they can find their smiles. It's easier for Heather than Lily, even though she's younger. Lily is a little drama queen. She overreacts to everything. Okay, I said. One last question. What are Nathan's biggest complaints about you? Oh, that's easy. Too much anger and not enough affection. Jenny laughed. I call him my puppy dog, but sometimes he feels more like a tick sucking me dry. But he's such a nice guy, I feel bad saying that. I'm going to make some guesses about what might be going on with you. It sounds like you have shut down your sad feelings. Maybe tears seem like a waste of time because you don't associate sadness with the need for comfort and relief. Anger causes a lot of tension in our bodies, and usually there is hurt of some kind underneath. If we don't allow ourselves to feel the hurt or cry, there is no release for that tension. You said you feel like you're on the outside looking in. People who have shut off their emotions describe that exact feeling. When life gets overwhelming, you isolate. Did you do that when you were a little girl? Jenny pondered the question. I really don't remember crying much as a kid. I don't know. Well, I continued, it seems there would not have been much room for your feelings when you were growing up. You had to focus on your mom's feelings as you did in the hospital. Your mom could not offer you comfort when you were upset. Instead, you had to take her for a time out and ignore your own feelings. Perhaps you learned to think of your mom's feelings as something negative and bothersome, like a burden you must manage on your own. I want you to think this week, Jenny, about how much of your childhood was spent managing your mother's emotions. Some specific memories might come to mind. Jot them down and share them next week. When we believe emotions are something to get rid of, like the outbursts of an overreactive parent, we tend to discard our feelings. So it was no surprise when Jenny thought of her own child's feelings as negative, calling her a drama queen. Also, Nathan's complaints were classic responses to an avoider spouse. Most couples find that once the emotions under their spouse's anger can be acknowledged and explored, the avoider becomes far less angry. Growth goals. If you relate to the avoider imprint, you might be thinking, darn it, I was sure my spouse was the problem. Well, quit blaming your spouse, admit you're part of the problem, and take responsibility for your own contribution. And if you are married to an avoider, don't take his or her stoicism personally. I'm fine is a favorite phrase of avoiders. But when you avoiders think about it, you know you're not. You may have survived childhood by detaching from your feelings and needs, but now you've escaped and you have a challenge ahead. You're going to have to surrender to the process of change and be willing to recognize your injury instead of insisting that your childhood was just normal kid stuff. The additional growth goals in the workbook will help you build intimacy in your marriage and help your spouse learn how to respond in healthy ways to your avoider tendencies and thereby encourage a more secure love style. And it's time to get going. Now is the perfect time to discover some ways you can grow. Chapter 6. The Pleaser Love Style. If there were one word to describe Marshall, it would be likable. He won others with his contagious smile and witty sense of humor. His wife, Abby, remarked, I'm probably the only one in the world who has a complaint. The kids adore him, and everyone at church and work love him. He's the nicest guy ever, but that's the problem. He's too nice. People at work take advantage of him, and I'm always the bad guy when it comes to disciplining the kids. Marshall's eyes twinkled. Men are like government bonds. They take so long to mature. I laughed, and Abby rolled her eyes. Marshall was serious and reserved when he and Abby came in for their third session. I commented on the change in his demeanor. He looked embarrassed and said to Abby, "You tell her." Abby took Marshall's hand. "Well, I'm kind of in shock," she said. "Marshall made an appointment at the doctor's because he was having chest pains. He didn't tell me about it until today. They ran a bunch of tests and his heart is fine. Dr. Donaldson said he's having panic attacks. He told me just before the session because the doctor wants him to discuss it with you. I don't even really know what panic attacks are," Abby explained. "Tell me what you experienced, Marshall," I inquired. "Well, I remember these same feelings when I went away to college. My mom and dad had just divorced, and I was really worried about my mom. It was hard to leave for school. My sisters were all older and married by then, and they didn't realize how depressed and lonely mom was." Abby's eyes were big and round. "I never knew that," she said. "I was dating you then. You never told me about panic attacks." "I didn't know that's what was happening. I just remember all of a sudden I would feel sweaty and like it was hard to breathe. My chest would get tight, my heart would pound, and I'd feel like I was going to lose control." Marshall shifted uncomfortably on the couch and looked out the window. I filled the silence. "That must have been very scary. What do you think would have happened if you had lost control, Marshall?" "Oh, I don't know. I always tried to get away from people so no one would see. It just went away after a while. I thought it was stress or something. It didn't happen again until Tim was born. I was driving home alone after I left Abby and Tim at the hospital, and it happened again." Abby was shaking her head in disbelief. "You never told me that either." She looked as if she was seeing into some secret place inside Marshall that she never knew existed. And she was. Marshall replied, "I didn't want to spoil the happiness. Besides, it's embarrassing. These episodes have happened on and off for the last 10 years. It's worse lately. That's why I went to the doctor, and he tells me it's all in my head. Great." "It might be more accurate to say it's all in your body, Marshall. It's as if your body is talking for you since you don't share your feelings with anyone. A lot goes on inside you that Abby doesn't even know about. I think you try to ignore it too, and finally your body does the talking. If that tight chest and those sweaty hands could talk, what would they say?" I inquired. Marshall changed the subject, as if I didn't really expect him to answer the question. "I made some progress this week in being the bad guy with the kids," he offered with a smile. I redirected him. "Let's go back to the feelings in your body. I really want you to give a voice to that pounding heart and tight chest." Marshall's smile faded. "I don't know. I guess my chest would say that I'm uptight, that it's too much. Everyone expects too much." Marshall was struggling to get one more thought out. He started and stopped several times. "Take your time and find the words," I encouraged. "Well, maybe it got worse again lately because Abby wanted to come to counseling." He turned to Abby. "I've been worrying that maybe you want a divorce and that we are coming here so you can tell me with a counselor present." Marshall looked miserable and rubbed his head as if he were trying to wake up from a bad dream. His chin started to quiver and tears filled his eyes. "Great. Now I am going to lose it," he said. Abby stroked his cheek, gently wiped his tears, and then wrapped her arms around him. "Oh, baby, I never knew. You are really hurting, and I never knew. You always look fine. I want you to tell me every time this happens from now on, okay? Promise?" Marshall nodded in agreement. Abby and I learned in later sessions that Marshall had taken on the responsibility of soothing his mother's fears and loneliness long before the divorce. Marshall's dad was distant, aloof, and rarely home, so Marshall's mom found her happiness in him, the baby of the family, and kept him close and dependent. Marshall himself realized in a later session how overprotective his mother had been. All the kids in the neighborhood hated to see her coming out the front door. She was such a mama bear. She scolded them plenty of times whenever I tattled on somebody. I was always right, and they were always wrong. Then she would say, "Marshall, you don't have to play with those mean boys. Come inside and watch TV with me." What you are saying, Marshall, is that your mom fought your battles for you. She never taught you to stand up for yourself in a healthy way. Maybe that is why you find it difficult to stand up to your coworkers, your kids, and even Abby. I'm sure Abby will be thrilled when you improve your confrontation skills with her. She'll be so glad she brought you to therapy, I teased. The home environment. So how does one arrive at adulthood with the imprint to perpetually please others? Some children experience a lot of anxiety growing up. It may be due to an overprotective parent who worries a lot and gives the message to the child, "Be careful. The world is scary, but you'll be okay if you are close to me." Angry or highly critical parents can also, and often unknowingly, create this imprint in their children, who then learn to be careful and to avoid criticism or ire. A youngster adopts the role of the good boy or good girl in an attempt to gain approval or recognition and to reduce tension in the parent or the family by pleasing rather than causing problems. Some kids please in response to a parent's anxiety, while others are managing a parent's irritability. These children absorb a lot of tension and try to find relief for their own anxiety by making others happy. Being aware of and responsible for the feelings of others, the pleaser has no opportunity to contemplate or process the anxiety driving his or her own relational style. In adult relationships, the underlying motivation for being in the helping role and focusing on the needs of others is to reduce one's own anxiety by keeping people close, content, and satisfied. When those around pleasers are happy, they are happy too. If others are upset, pleasers are distressed as well. When others distance themselves, detach, or are angry, the result is space in the relationship. This space causes agitation and drives the pleaser into pursuit mode in an effort to close the gap. Conflict is often avoided, and anger, if felt, is expressed indirectly or not at all. After pleasers spend a number of years of chronic worry and overgiving, resentment often emerges. Marshall's mom fit many of these characteristics of a parent who creates a pleaser love style in a child. Unhealthy fear and worry can be passed from generation to generation, and in some homes, one parent's influence dominates the family. When that parent is driven by worry and fear, his or her anxiety will permeate the atmosphere of the home. Likewise, in overprotective homes, worrying parents often see danger around every corner. To reduce their own anxiety, these parents discourage the child from taking risks and shelter the child from stressful situations. Large amounts of control are exerted to keep the child from getting hurt, emotionally or physically. The world is seen as a dangerous place, and the unspoken message is, the world is scary, but you will be okay as long as you stay close and let me protect you. These parents are often overwhelmed due to their excessive worrying. As the child enters the developmental stages of exploration, toddlerhood, and adolescence, the stress level increases because the parents have difficulty letting go and relinquishing control. Fearful parents need control in order to minimize risk. In many respects, this dynamic becomes more about the parents' attempts to reduce their own anxiety by being in charge, rather than about their teaching the child to conquer his fears. When the child has squabbles with other children, forgets to turn in homework, or gets in trouble at the neighbors, this parent readily steps in to rescue the child from unpleasant feelings or situations, not realizing the child is missing out on opportunities to learn how to feel and deal. But parents have a hard time helping a child learn to manage her worries when they have not successfully completed this developmental task themselves. In a subsequent session with Marshall and Abby, Marshall remembered being afraid at night when his dad was away on business trips. His mom told him there was nothing to be afraid of, yet she anxiously checked every door and window, closed each drape, carefully adjusted each one to cover any view into the house, and then turned on every light. Common childhood fears about the dark, strangers, or scary dreams are met with, there's nothing to be afraid of. This message is at odds with the parent's constant worry, which the child feels on some level. Although children are told, don't be afraid, their fears are often indulged as they are taken to their parents' bed, escorted in the dark, picked up from friends' homes in the middle of the night, and not pushed to try new things. Parents who worry excessively, however, rarely see themselves as fearful, but rather concerned. Constant worry is the norm for these parents, and therefore such a familiar experience that it is rarely recognized, much less addressed as a problem. But this concern may promote a pattern of rescuing the child from upsetting experiences or feelings because it is difficult for these parents to see their child in distress. They quickly step in to help when the child is frustrated or makes a mistake. Without realizing it, these parents send a harmful message to the child, you can't do it by yourself, you need my help. And over time, the child comes to believe it. Furthermore, pampered children who are quickly rescued from distress are not able to develop resiliency and perseverance. A child's displays of anger, sadness, or fear are quickly banished, since the anxious parent takes this personally and feels inadequate. These moms and dads think that the child would be happy and satisfied if they were doing their job as parents correctly. One more thing. Since these parents find negative feelings overwhelming, they assume their child does as well. Now, you may be thinking that a child in this kind of environment receives too much comfort, but there is a big difference between comforting and rescuing. Remember that anxious parents are preoccupied with their own fears, so tuning into the feelings of their child is next to impossible. Instead of helping the child accept, process, and manage negative feelings, these parents attempt to rescue the child from having to experience such feelings at all. Often weighed down with internal turmoil of their own, these parents find it difficult to draw out the child's feelings and offer relief. And because these children appear to be doing so well, they're busy pleasing, parents assume they are. Pleasers also are created when an angry or critical parent dominates the scene, and a feeling of apprehension pervades the home. Children in such an environment must be careful since any behavior or decision will most likely be met with criticism. In such cases, some children keep trying to please and win the approval of the fault-finding parent. Others learn to step lightly to keep from setting off outbursts that frighten them. What's it like to be the kid? Children raised by fearful, angry, or critical parents become fearful themselves. These are often sensitive kids who easily internalize the feelings of others. Distress produced by anxiety or anger causes them to adopt strategies that will relieve the parent. Children may take on the pleaser role to reduce tension and anxiety in adults and ultimately in themselves. These kids are anxious and upset when those around them are angry or worried. They find it hard to settle down until their parents are happy. Also, hugging and touching may be more for the parents' benefit as youngsters take care of their parents' need for soothing. Marshall commented in one session, "I used to feel guilty about going out with my friends in high school and leaving my mom home alone." He felt he had to pay more attention to his mother's feelings than his own. Consequently, Marshall struggled to separate from her and become his own person. In over